Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. I'm out and about on another bike review. This time I'm on another KTM, and this is the long-awaited, much-anticipated KTM 790 Duke. It's a bike that I've been wanting to ride ever since I first saw it back at the NEC show last year. New for 2018, it's kind of the little brother, if you like, of the Super Duke R, a bike I love so much, or the big brother of the Duke 390, another bike that I love so much. So if you stick around and stay tuned, I'll give you my first impressions review of this amazing bike. So the Duke 790 then, quite a departure for KTM this bike represents, because it's got a brand new engine on it, and it's a twin engine, a parallel twin, the first for KTM. Puts out something like 105 brake horsepower. I'll go through all the specs a little bit later when we do the walk around. But KTM, of course, are renowned for their big singles, so as I say, this is a completely new departure, and they've really done a good job. It's what they call the LC8C engine, the 8 representing that it's almost 800cc, and it's actually 799cc I think, and the C stands for compact, because they've made the engine really, really small to pack it into this frame, which has the great side effect of actually making it very narrow for your legs here, so it feels very compact when you sat on the bike. The engine itself has a 75-degree crank, so even though it's a parallel twin, it's got a lovely low rumble to it that mimics a V-twin. And it's a very eager unit indeed, it spins up really quickly. They've done a great job with counterbalancing it as well, there's absolutely no vibrations through it. Okay, to the practical points on the bike then before we get into some of the details. What's she feel like in terms of comfort? Well, the riding position, very comfortable. My knees are at an acute angle, my feet tucked up quite sportily. I naturally am sitting slightly canted forward, and the handlebars are relatively wide, so it feels quite an aggressive riding position, although the way the seat is built means you can move around on it quite a bit, so I'm naturally sitting quite forward on it, but I can move back a good, what feels like a good 6 inches, and stretch my legs a bit, so I think it would cater for a wide range of heights and leg length, this bike. The seat itself is typical KTM, and what I mean by that is it's flipping hard. It's quite wide, so it's comfortable enough when you initially get onto it, but it's not overly padded, it has to be said, so it'll be interesting to see how this bike goes on a longer run. Now, I picked this bike up today as my latest long-term loaner from the people at KTM, and I've ridden it for about 100 miles so far today, and the seat's been okay, but I suspect when I get to know the bike a bit more and have done some longer journeys, that may become an issue, but we'll wait and see on that one. One of the things this bike has as standard is an amazing quick shifter and auto blipper, so it's clutchless gear changes, both up the box and down, and it works really nicely. It's one of the better ones I've used, it's really smooth. KTM have thrown all sorts of electronics at this bike, and given its price at a very reasonable $8.5 grand, it's incredible value with things like lean angle sensitive ABS, lean angle sensitive traction control, riding modes, slipper clutch, full TFT screen. You really do get a lot of bike for your money with this one. Feels really light when you're riding around as well. Handling is beautiful. It does remind me very much of its big brother, the Super Duke R. Not quite as angry, but it's not far off. And the note out of the exhaust really is quite nice. You can get a Terminioni for it, I think, or rather an Akropovich, I should say, which I probably would go for, because I think that just looks a little bit better than the standard pipe. Well, I haven't done a bad job with the standard pipe on the styling, as I'll show you in a minute. While we're back on the practical points, these mirrors work very well. You can see very well behind you, no blurring or vibration. What I don't like are these big old rubber gaiters that KTM tend to stick on their mirrors. They just look ugly to me. I don't know why they persist in that. Whoever designed those needs firing. Now, there was a false neutral there just as I was going up through the box. I went to go to third gear and it stayed in second when I clipped on the upshifter, and that's on the quick shifter, I should say. That's happened to me a couple of times. Even though it's an excellent quick shifter and auto blipper, I have had a few false neutrals on her. Handling is absolutely sublime though. One of the things that KTM have necessarily, I guess, had to cut back on is the suspension spec on this bike. It's got fairly basic non-adjustable suspension, but out of the box it feels beautiful. For normal road riding like this, it's just set in that Goldilocks zone. Now, you may know I'm a big fan of the Street Triple. I have a Street Triple myself, and I've ridden the new Street Triples quite extensively. And I have to say, I think this is a better ride. And significantly cheaper as well. It feels an awful lot faster, more sprightly than a Street Triple. I know it's got a few more cc, but it's got a lot less power, 105 HP, whereas I think the Street Triple's got something near 125. But to me, it just feels faster. It probably, I don't know yet, but it probably runs out of puff towards the top, whereas the Street Triple keeps on delivering. So I think the gearing, or the mapping, is such that the power's lower down, but for real riding on the road, that's where you want it. Oh, brilliant. My first white van of the review. I'll tell you what, let's pull in here and show you around the bike. That way I can lose the van. Just stick it here for a moment. Hopefully there's enough room for me to show you around the bike. Stand is nice and easy to get down. Here we go, here she is then, the KTM 790 Duke. Handsome looking bike for a KTM. I often criticise the way KTMs look, but this one I think looks okay. It's not stunning, but as KTMs go, it looks good. It apes its bigger brother, the Super Duke. I love the front end with the lights on it, and I love the way it's kind of haunched at the front here, and it looks like it's going fast before it's even moving anywhere. Anyway, let me get the other camera out, and I'll talk you through the specs and show you around the bike in the usual way. Okay, here she is then. This one obviously in the black and grey, which I think looks quite nice. I think the orange may be the way to go though, to prove it's a KTM, and there's that fantastic LCD light that's carried over from its big brother, and indeed its little brother. Let's have a closer look at this engine, the compact unit, which as I say, KTM are calling the LC8C. 799cc parallel twin, as I mentioned, the first two-cylinder that KTM has made, and it's got this 75-degree crank offset that gives it that amazing sound, a bit like a V-twin. Power-wise, it puts out 105 HP at 9,000 RPM and 87 Newton meters of torque at 8,000 RPM. Now that sounds quite high, doesn't it? Quite high RPM to give out its power, but actually something like 85% of its power is available low down as well, so it's quite nicely spread as a real-world bike. Brakes, if we have a look at the front, it's got 4-pot calipers on dual discs at the front. These look pretty beefy. They're badged KTM, but they really look quite substantial. The discs themselves are 300mm. At the back we've got a single pot disc, here we go, on a 240mm disc. Suspension wise, as I mentioned, it's relatively basic. The front, as you would expect on a KTM, has WP forks. These are 43mm, but non-adjustable, and on the rear you've got a WP shock. If I can come around and show you, if I can get in there. Where is she? It's got preload adjustment in the usual way, but it does say fairly basic suspension, but it works, feels really nice. Seat height on this, 825mm, so relatively high, but actually because it's so narrow at the waist there, you can get your feet down really easily, and for me at 5'8", I can flat foot it no problems. If you are short, no worries, because there's a low seat available, and even a low chassis version as well. Weight wise, KTM say the bike's 169 kilograms dry, and if you fill her up with fuel, that takes it to 174 kilograms, so relatively light for this sort of style of bike, and it certainly feels very light when you ride her, as I say. Tank capacity on this 14 litres, which is quite substantial. I've read somewhere about 50 miles per gallon. I'll see how it fares, but 150 mile range out of that tank is you know, fairly doable, I think. There's that exhaust I mentioned, which I don't think looks too bad as a standard pipe. It sounds nice, but I may indeed replace that with the Acra, just because it looks even better, I think. So look at the switchgear and so on, all basic stuff on here. The usual KTM TFT, obviously not switched on at the moment, but from that you activate the riding modes, etc. When talking about electronics, this thing is packed with them. So riding modes, sport, street, rain and track. I've only really so far used it in sport, which is great fun. Track mode includes launch control, anti-wheelie, and as I mentioned, we've got the lean angle, sensitive traction control and ABS. It's got the up-down quick shifter, just here, which works well except for the odd forced neutral as I mentioned. It's got something called MSR, motor slip control, which is like a clever engine braking system. It's got a supermoto mode that allows sort of hooligan riding, if you like, with ABS only on the front brake, so you can slide the back around. LED lighting, TFT screen, basically loads of toys. And the great thing, as I mentioned earlier, the price of this, $8,499. It's just a bargain. It's kind of a tickle over the base costs of, say, the Street Triple, but it's got a much better spec as standard. Okay, what else got to say about it? It's got a slipper clutch on it, which means it's you've got no issues with the engine locking up if you're a bit ham-fisted, and it's nice and light as well. You can get all sorts of extras. I mentioned the exhaust. You can also get top cases, side cases, phone holders, all sorts of stuff to make the bike your own. Alrighty, that's pretty much it. Let's jump on, ride us some more. Alright, move to you two noisy devils. Right then, back off. Right, let's get the show back on the road. Not sure where this leads, but let's see if I can turn around up here somewhere. One thing that strikes me about this bike, as soon as you jump on, is just actually its non-threatening nature. It's very, very easy to ride. There's nothing about it that's difficult at all. Feels light, feels agile. Now, I love the Super Duke R, which was a fabulous bike, but if anything, scared me a little bit with its enormous power and capability on the road. And then there was the Duke 390 that I really enjoyed riding. Fantastic bike, little single cylinder thumper in the KTM range. Really enjoyed riding that as well. Loved the styling of it and its funky nature, and the fact that it was light and flickable. Well, this for me sits right between the two, as it's kind of love child of the Super Duke R and the 390 Duke. It's got the attitude, if you like, of the Super Duke, and it's got loads of power, go, gadgets, but it's got the fun factor of the 390. It really is a great combination. That auto blipper just works beautifully coming down the box. Road's a bit gravelly at the moment. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm lucky enough to have this bike for a little while, because this is my latest long-term loan bike from those nice people at KTM UK. So I'm looking forward to really getting to know the bike better over the longer period, and I will bring you my living with review in a few weeks' time and let you know what I've learnt about the bike, having ridden it much more distance than I have so far. So if you're interested in these machines, do stick around and stay tuned. Much more to come. I really do love the way the engine sounds on this machine. Even with that standard pipe, it's got a low, throaty rumble. Really nice. Gearbox, if you do use the clutch, is lovely, as you'd expect from a new bike. Clutch is super light, thanks to that slipper clutch mechanism they've got installed. But to be honest, you need to use it very, very rarely, because even at slow speeds, look, if I come really slow down here now, I can, there we go, just change down into first with the auto blipper, no complaints. One thing that is slightly annoying with the bike though, as you may have noticed, you see the screen now, the LCD screen, it's gone to night mode, a bit too soon for my liking. And you do find as you ride along and you go through shadow and dark light bits, it's gone back to day, now it's back to night. It clicks forward and back between day and night mode quite a lot. I mentioned that before with some of the other KTMs that have the TFT screen, and it's not just KTMs that do it either. This suspension may be, you know, not expensive and relatively basic, but it certainly soaks up the bumps in this hideously bumpy lane. So really looking forward to getting to know this bike a bit better over the next few weeks. One thing I have noticed about the Duke 790 as I've been riding it today is that she does run quite warm. Not in terms of the indication on the gauges, it's all looking fine there. I'm getting quite a bit of heat on my left leg. Not terrible, and when you're in Blighty, that's more often than not a good thing. It's quite a warm day today, even though it's quite cloudy. It's sort of 22 degrees, quite humid. And that heat is a little bit annoying. What a fun machine. Brakes work really well, by the way. Just going to try the back one. Yeah, even the back one works pretty well. Now the bike is of course a naked bike, so no fairings to speak of, not much by way of wind protection, so you are in the wind blast. But the wind I'm getting is nice and clean, it's not turbulent air, so it's no more of an issue than any other naked bike. Quick opportunity to pick one off at least. Yeah, for day-to-day riding, this engine at 799cc, 105 brake horsepower, absolutely enough power for real-world riding. You can overtake things with great ease, and you can have a lot of fun on this bike. It's just an eager puppy of a bike. Really, really like it. So to summarise then, it's light, it's agile, it's fun, it's fast. It looks pretty good. It's absolutely laden with electronics, and it is stunning value for money. I personally think it handles really nicely. I think at this, you know, having just ridden it for today only, I think that it probably handles better than a street triple, and that is saying something. Like it very much, so do stick around and stay tuned for a few more videos on this bike over the next few weeks, and I'll be able to give you my long-term lessons learned. But until then, this has been the Missing and Flyer. Cheerio.
We're working with our partners Speedo Angels throughout July to give you 20% off the entire range of dashboard screen protectors and get yourself one extra free fitting kit when you use the discount code Missenden. Just go to www.speedo-angels.com.